Exacto, me imagino que usted es la moderadora, así que
Sí,
se comenzaría a grabar arriba y listo.
perfecto.
Listo.
Todavía no inicia la transmisión, ¿cierto?
Sí, ya estamos. Si quieren
Perfecto.
comenzar, no hay ningún problema.
Bueno, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone to this afternoon's very important event, Youth for the Escazú Agreement. Those of us who've been working in this process were thrilled to have involvement by youth and young people from the region, and so enthusiastically with regard to the Escazú Agreement. We have a very interesting panel, a very full agenda this afternoon for this event on Youth for Escazú. So welcome everyone to this very relevant event held within the framework of our second meeting of the signatory countries. We will begin our session with a welcome. First, the floor will be taken by Carlos de Miguel from the Escazú Secretariat at ECLAC, followed by Hanak Barlevy from the Regional Office for Latin America and the Caribbean, UNICEF, and then our colleague Karetta Crooks, representative of the public for the Escazú Agreement, and in this first session, we will also be honored to hear Chiara Cascante, Youth Champion for the Escazú Agreement. Please go ahead. Carlos de Miguel. Thank you very much, Olimpia, and thank you for that introduction. I would like to welcome everyone to this event on Youth for Escazú, this online meeting. And first of all, I would like to thank everyone who's made this event possible. First, UNICEF, our colleagues at UNICEF, and that are working tirelessly for youth, girls, boys from around the world and have joined us here to support the Escazú Agreement, but especially the Acceso Initiative, LARC, and other civil society organizations that are with us here today. And special attention to the elected representatives of the public, and especially all those of you who are hearing us. The Escazú Agreement process is open, transparent, participatory, and the public, all Latin Americans and Caribbeans, may take part, and the elected representatives are here and they have been with us right from the start. I would also like to deeply thank the youth of Latin America, girls, boys, youth from Latin America and the Caribbean, not only because some of them are Escazú champions and leading national processes and also regional processes, in order to ensure not only the ratification and signing of the Escazú Agreement, but also its implementation, but because young people who have very quickly understood the relevance of the Escazú Agreement. The Escazú Agreement is a call to do things differently. It is a call to change the patterns for production and consumption on the basis of respect for human rights, respect for the environment. And so 4 days ago, the Secretary General was giving us and called us to make peace with the planet. It's a call from the UN because we see an imminent crisis in our society because precisely we're not doing things right. And so Different to the situation in general terms within the world of young people, protection of the environment has been a banner of struggle for a long time, and they are absolutely necessary players so that we can achieve this change in the way of doing things as we need it and with the urgency that the Secretary General has called for. We at ECLAC believe that it is now, right now, this very complex moment that shows all the structural issues affecting the region in terms of inequality, environmental pressure, lack of development. It is possible to do things with a different way for the recovery. And here the youth has been called upon to bias this recovery model that we have in this region. We have published a document that gives some guidelines, but it is nevertheless framed along the way set by the Escazú Agreement. This is a road that leads to rights, to compacts. It is a road for protection of the environment. Nothing may be done for us if we do not do something. And the powerful message of the Escazú Agreement is that all actors in the world, all players in the civil society must be convened to find these changes that we all need. And so ECLAC, first of all, we thank you for having supported these processes in the region, and we agree to continue to work for the protection of the environment. And of course, we invite you in these days to take part in the second meeting of signatory countries, but above all, to continue working all together in relation to the Escazú Agreement. We're very soon to our entry into force, and we already have the 11 ratifications required. And so this regional milestone, this first environmental agreement on human rights in the region, will be a reality where all young people are part of this process. They are key players and surely will be essential players in the changes that we must make for the future. So welcome everyone, and we're at your service for everything you may need. Thank you. Very well, and now, Hanok Bar-Levi, the floor is yours.
Carlos Miguel, it is an honor to be here and participate on behalf of UNICEF Office for Latin America and the Caribbean. It is indeed a milestone event of Youth of Escazú. I would like, first and foremost, to thank ECLAC, the Access Initiative, the Millennials Movement, the Escazú Young Champions, and other organizations involved. Especially, I would like to thank all the young people that are participating in this very important event, who with your strength, convictions, enthusiasm are changing the course of climate action and inspiring many other people to act for the planet. So thank you and congratulations for this event. While children are least responsible for current climate and environment, will be the ones who suffer most from their consequences. This is first time that entire generation will be born and raised in a world that has become much more dangerous and uncertain as a result of changing climate and environmental degradation. The climate crisis is also a climate of children's rights, and there is an imperative for intergenerational justice. But far from assuming a role of victims, you have assumed an important role of agent of change, fighting for defense for the environment, demanding real changes, and also taking action. UNICEF inspired by people like you. We are committed to the climate and environmental agenda. We understand that to achieve climate frameworks and actions that consider the specific needs of the most vulnerable and to guarantee their resilience, we must provide spaces that ensure meaningful participation of children, adolescents, and young people. Latin America and the Caribbean is one of the regions with the highest number of young voices raised in defense of nature. However, it is also a tough place to be a climate activist. It is one of the regions with the fewest mechanisms for transparency and access to environmental information, and one of the regions with the highest crimes against environmental defenders. Tomorrow, will begin the second meeting of signatory countries of the Regional Agreement on Access to Information, Public Participation and Access to Justice on Environmental Matters in Latin America and the Caribbean. The agreement is presented as a unique mechanism by bringing together a community that can change the rules of the game and ensuring the full, safe, and informed participation of young people in climate action and environmental advocacy. This has been and continue to be a long-distance race in which young people, far from sitting around and waiting, have taken the lead by becoming champion of the Escazú Agreement. The implementation of the agreement must be understood in conjunction with young people, ensuring their age, gender, ability, ethnic diversity are included to achieve the universality of the agreement. UNICEF has wide experience in providing spaces for dialogue among young people and with policymakers, building from young people to young people. Just recently, UNICEF, together with a group of 45 young activists, has launched a toolkit for climate youth activists, which will be introduced in a very few minutes by Sara Cognuck, a young activist from Costa Rica. It is an essential tool to ensure that every child, adolescent, and youth have access to climate and environmental information in a simple manner, which allows everyone to understand policies and regulatory frameworks. This, we hope, will allow the wider participation of young people in climate action. In a world of climate, environmental, and rights crisis, we would like to commend your commitment to advance environmental and human rights and the development of fair, inclusive, and sustainable societies. Everywhere we are seeing you raising your voices and claiming your rights, it's becoming an unstoppable force with an immense transformational capacities. To end, we would like to encourage you to continue and play a fundamental role in promoting and dissemination and implementation of the Escazú Agreement. Your strength is especially important today at an unprecedented time when we have to reimagine what the new global social contract can be. Thank you very much, and wishing all of us a very good luck and constructive event.
Muchas gracias, Hanok. Estimada Karetta, te escucho.
Thank you, Hanok. Karetta, you have the floor.
I won't put my camera on because it's going to affect the quality of my audio, so I will go ahead. Despite all the fear, uncertainty, and injustice taking place in our world, and especially exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, it is heartwarming how the youths from across Latin America and the Caribbean have raised their voices to advance the ratification and promote the effective implementation of the Escazú Agreement. The elected representatives of the public, in collaboration with the Access Initiative and with support from the Millennial Movement and DAR and quite a few other CSOs across Latin America and the Caribbean, we announced 5 youth champions of Escazú from Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This announcement came in March 2020, the second anniversary of the adoption of the Escazú Agreement, a groundbreaking treaty recognizing environmental rights in Latin America and the Caribbean. The 5 young people had major plans to raise awareness about Escazú in their respective countries and regionally, but had to pivot due to the pandemic. Despite a shift from in-person engagements, the Escazú Youth Champions have staged numerous virtual events on social media, reaching fellow young people exactly where they are, and providing an opportunity to advocate for a noble cause during these challenging times. The young leaders are all in school, therefore managing their education and social life has not prevented them from being committed to their role to raise awareness, inspire, and mobilize young people from across the region to advocate for the governments to put mechanisms in place to take better care of the environment. One often hears the phrase, "Our children are the future," but we need them to participate actively now in order to create a brighter future where our natural resources are not depleted where the people who rely on their environment for their livelihoods are not left out of the decision-making processes, and where environmental defenders are not victimized, threatened, or killed. That is why all youths are encouraged, to work with the champions so that we can raise greater awareness and encourage more young people to get on board. The 5 youth champions are Nicole Becker from Argentina, Sebastian Benfeld, hope I pronounced it correctly, Sebastian, from Chile, Chiara Cascante from Costa Rica, and Afisha Richardson from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Laura Serna from Colombia. I had a slide, but I didn't have enough time to put it up. I'll share it with you afterwards. So I take this opportunity to congratulate them on behalf of the elected representatives of the public and pledge our continued support to work with you to make Escazú a household name and achieve the effective implementation of this historic agreement in Latin America and the Caribbean. And I'd just like to make special mention of my colleague Andrea Sanhuesa, who is the main elected representative of the public from Chile, who has been working closely with the youth champions, and her role, of course, in putting this event together. Andrea, thank you. And once again, congratulations, youth, for everything that you have done. And we look forward to everything that you will do together with our support. Thank you.
Thank you, Karetta. Chiara Cascante, te escuchamos.
Hola, un gusto saludarles.
Hello, it's a pleasure to greet you all this afternoon. I'm Karetta Cascan. I represent the institutions and organizations that make these spaces possible for us to tell our story, to raise our voices. And we've been doing this since March. I would like to deeply thank all youth in Latin America and the Caribbean, because I know why Escazú is positive, and I want to bring many more of us on to the effort, and so that we can talk about why it's important for our countries. We do that as champions. We do what we can with what we have in those places where we are located. We inform other people, and each person does this at home. Every young person talks about the Escazú Agreement and how it can be implemented. But we all have this, we all simply speak up when something happens that we don't agree with, and that is very important. Each one of us, independently, wherever we are, we can do something. And, it's important because sometimes we think that sometimes what we have is not enough, or that we shouldn't speak up, but it is necessary, and we need to make this change. So, as champions, we have done our best to take this message of inspiration to many other youth in order to continue working on this. And in each of these countries, groups have formed, they're working on this and on these campaigns, and it's very important. I deeply thank you all, because this is the beginning of a huge change for the implementation of the Escazú Agreement in Latin America, and it's important for all of us to have direct access to Escazú. I deeply thank all youth and the organizations that have offered us this space, and anyone in general. I would like to invite you all to read about Escazú, to hear about it, so we can all make a change together. Thank you, Chiara. In fact, this is a huge opportunity for all youth in our region. So when young people express themselves, we know there are many forms of expression. And the next segment of the program has been organized as an artistic sample. We want to show you what our young people feel and perceive. It's a very interesting way to get to know how they feel and how they think. I'd like to offer the floor to Ricardo Ismael Santos from Honduras so that he can briefly comment what the song is about, and then we will hear it. It's a pleasure to have you with us here today, Ricardo. Welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who is listening today or who is seeing us. This song is called Planet Earth, Planeta Tierra. And we know that our planet is going through difficult times. There's ambition and many things that affect it. This message was not meant to be negative. On the contrary, I wanted to leave a positive message with adolescents, with children, with adults. I wanted it to make us think about the environment. I apologize for the sound. We're at our workplace. The Escazú Agreement aims to protect the environment. It's very important to take care of the environment because the planet is suffering. We don't own the planet. The planet owns us. And that's what people don't understand. There's many things that are not taken into account. Young people today don't pay a lot of attention. They're distracted. They don't see what is offered by the system. Escazú creates awareness and it makes us better people and more human. Thank you very much. And I really hope you like my song, Planeta Tierra, Planet Earth.
Aquí estoy otra vez, en este planeta que se encuentra al revés, listo para poder mover mis piezas en este ajedrez. Bueno, les comento lo que está sucediendo. El mundo se está hundiendo, mares, lagos contaminados y animales se están extinguiendo. Ya no existe la amistad y ahora en la actualidad podemos observar por montones el planeta Tierra. Gente depresiva se suicida mientras la NASA fuera de la esfera busca vida. Supermercados, combustibles, precios elevados, productos comestibles no procesados, los diarios, la sección de sucesos, gente sin sesos, la muerte es detectada y la sangre de inocentes derramada. No hay persecuciones ni arrestos, lo que hay son decretos pisoteados. No es un secreto porque no son ni discretos los desgraciados. No puedo evitar ser tan honesto en esto, pero es que padezco una rara enfermedad mental llamada verdad, la cual hoy les habla y les pasa a sus auditivas lo que hoy se entabla. Clases sociales divididas, racismo masivo como no te imaginas, bombas nucleares, manifestantes muertos a manos de esclavos militares, hogares en Siria destruidos, Estados Unidos y sus misiles destructivos evasivos de la verdad, porque ninguna guerra va a aceptar mato por robar. Perdón si me pongo tenso, pero es que el horror en el que vivimos es demasiado inmenso y pienso, ¿cómo existe gente tan nefasta que saca la casta? Inclusive por padres pederastas, gobernantes, que recursos malgastan, no con todo esto les basta. Usaron la religión para que vivamos con temor y piden donaciones que transforman en mansiones en nombre del amor al creador. Paren, por favor. La tecnología sigue evolucionando, mientras a cavernícolas estamos regresando. ¿Qué está pasando? Pues el mundo se está acabando, el futuro no es mañana, es hoy y lo estamos desperdiciando, abusando de la madre naturaleza y sus riquezas, creando tipos de pobrezas en destrucciones, pero hay galardones para las duquesas en la realeza que hacen deforestaciones, solo para crear una lujosa mesa sin sentir tristeza por la madre naturaleza. Nos mienten diciendo que todo está normal, que nada va a pasar. Se me hace fácil notar que solo nos buscan engañar. A mí de adolescente no me atraían estas tonterías, al menos así es como las veía. De nada me enteraba, no jodían mi economía, de eso nada sabía, solo mis padres que me regalaban la comida, pero mira, el problema no solo es arriba. Nosotros debemos hacer algo por un cambio, educarnos, trabajando, mostrando que cooperando todos juntos en el mundo, el futuro puede ir mejorando, no empeorando. No más contaminaciones, enfermedades ni explosiones. Así aún podemos aquí seguir habitando. Debemos ir pensando cómo solucionamos los problemas en los ecosistemas que nos tienen en condiciones extremas. Pues fauna y flora también lloran. Con temblores, inundaciones, tornados y erupciones nos imploran que detengamos nuestras ambiciones por cosas como piedras preciosas, cosas fastidiosas, que otros las gozan. Mientras esto sucede, en pedazos la tierra se destroza. Muchos hablan de mi rap sin escuchar y analizar las palabras que suelo desatar al cantar, y es más, yo no canto, solo cuento lo que observo. Hay más balas que cuadernos. Aquí no se llama planeta Tierra, aquí se llama infierno. La vida no es como la contaron, el cielo no es rosado, es gris, y aquí, para no aguantar hambre, aquí, hermano, aquí se suda sangre. Escandu desde Aka Family para todo el que me escuche en el planeta Tierra, desde mi tierra, Honduras 504.
Un mensaje muy fuerte.
A major message brought to us from Honduras. And now we will be hearing from the Caribbean a song by Polana Fenty.
Causing challenges to our island states. Small islands are burdened. We need to solve climate change before it's too late. Sea levels rise, causing floods and storms. Increased risk of diseases to cause us harm. I am a youth of a small island. To tell the truth, I don't know it all. But I'll make sure my voice is heard. Claim it loud and spread the word. 'Cause I am a youth of a small island. A move must be made by the government to invest in sustainable development. Small island states need strategies like NSAP and UNFCCC. Sea levels rise, erasing low-lying atolls. Since are a special case because we're vulnerable and small. I am a youth of a small island. To tell the truth, I don't know it all. But I'll make sure my voice is heard. Proclaim it loud and spread the word. 'Cause I am a youth of a small island. Of a small island.
Terminamos esta muestra artística con un
And we end this artistic segment with a video. If someone could turn it on, please.
What the bird? Traveling, never threw anything out of your bus window. That plastic racket, empty tin, put it all in the turbine. Don't put it in a place with this no cold cup. Someone's gonna have to pick it up. Don't be lazy now. Keep your trash. Those empty bottles might be worth some cash. Let's all try to be beautiful and keep popping up. Beautiful.
Gracias.
Thank you. Without a doubt, young people transmit through art what they are feeling and living. And this is an important call to change this world, make it a better planet for these generations and those to come. And that at a coming artistic meeting we may have messages of optimism, and where our youth may reflect that we are already building this new relationship between the human being and nature. That is our wager, because those of us who work for the implementation of the Escazú Agreement. The next segment will be a presentation of the Toolkit for Climate Activists in Latin America and the Caribbean, presented by Sara Cognuck from the Regional Office of Latin America and the Caribbean, UNICEF. Sara, the floor is yours.
Sara, ¿nos escuchas?
Sí.
Can you hear us? Yes. I believe you're already seeing the presentation on the screen? Not yet. Very well. I would like to begin by thanking you for this time to share this major effort, the result of the work of about 51 people, activists from Latin America and the Caribbean and the regional UNICEF office. It was a tremendous effort, but that of course began about a year back during the COP and COP25 events, when a group of people, we realized that access to climate information and everything related to climate action has been treated in a way that so that not everyone has access to them. And for a region such as ours, where we have so many countries that speak Spanish, this is still, there's a tremendous gap in terms of information. And so as a result, we decided to do something about it. And along the way, we met up with UNICEF and we began to imagine how could we make a contribution to reduce this gap in the access to information. And so as a result of this toolkit for climate activists came about. And this is what I will be presenting today. We began to think about this and we said our aim would be to strengthen the capacities of adolescents and young people, providing them accessible information to allow them to participate in national and international climate action. And so we began to work on the toolkit for young climate activists. And the packet comprises 5 booklets. It's very important to say that these 5 booklets are just the first stage of this toolkit, because what we want is for the toolkit to really be expanded and that it may respond to the various needs of young people in order to achieve a full participation and with a tremendous scope. And so these 5 booklets, which are these that you can see on the screen right now, this is the first step. And this precisely will respond to the gap in terms of access to information. So, as I said, what we want is to build capacities. And so we need information. And so also we need to have a common language in terms of climate change and all our related aspects. And that is why in this first step, the booklets we can find tools for climate action, things that we can work on within each country, and also on climate governance, which is a real universe. And in the booklet, you can see each component, as well as a glossary for young people, and also the Paris Agreement and the Escazú Agreement in versions for young people. With regard to the Escazú Agreement, it is very relevant to, well, no, I will not speak about the agreement as such, but because the young people here are experts in this agreement, and throughout the event, we will be listening to them. So I would just like to mention the toolkit as such, because the tool is very specific. What it wants is to further the implementation of the agreement in all countries. It's a tool for young people who are engaged with this struggle, may use the tool to include other people in this action, because if more people are able to feel that the agreement is for them and speaks what they want to say, they will be doing things in countries to ensure the implementation of the agreement, and will be putting pressure on governments so that they may implement it, channels and mechanisms. We also know that the information in the toolkit is a way of democratizing the information, because the Escazú Agreement, a fundamental right it guarantees, is access to information and participation. So if we achieve the democratization of information, we will collaborating to the achievement or the fulfillment of these rights. If young people have accessible, available information for them, then this will ensure their full and effective participation. And so the Escazú booklet is a way of helping young people to further their interest in Latin America and the Caribbean. This toolkit can be found at the UNICEF website, although at the moment it is only available online. The idea is that this toolkit may also be available through other channels. Maybe there are people that right now do not have access to online materials, and so that they too may have access to the booklet. It's available in English and Spanish, and the idea is that it be translated into other languages as well, because the Escazú Agreement focuses on our region, but it should serve as an example for other regions of the world. They're also going through hazardous situations, and so is of interest to people who are interested in the climate in different countries. And so now you can find it at our website, but we're working for this to be available through other channels as well. And in conclusion, I would very much like to invite you to write to us if you have any question or comment on the Escazú Agreement for young people or any of the other booklets in the toolkit. And also, we would like this to be expanded. So if you are activists for the Escazú Agreement, if you consider there is any other topic that may be included in this toolkit, let us know, because our intention is to really make sure that the toolkit should evolve, same as our struggle evolves and what is being led by young people in the region. Thank you.
Gracias a ti, Sara, y creo que será.
Thank you, Sarah. I think it'll be very useful for the region when talking about these topics, and it'll be of great interest to download the materials and be able to use it. Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you, UNICEF for sharing this material with us. I'd like to offer the floor now to Mr. David Barrios from the Secretariat of the Escazú Agreement over at ECLAC, and he's going to talk about the Sustainable Development Goal number 16 and the Escazú Agreement. You have the floor, David. Thank you, Olimpia. I'm going to switch to English to maintain a balance with the languages, although the presentation is in Spanish.
That youth have in order to learn more about the Escazú Agreement, and that actually speaks to the tenets of the Escazú Agreement, that really captures the essence of this agreement, is this online course on SDG 16, Access Rights, the Aarhus Convention, and the Escazú Agreement. This course was presented, launched on World Environment Day on 5th of June of this year, and pretends to be one of the main outreaching initiatives for youth and the general public to train, raise their awareness, and build their skills on environmental access rights and the Escazú Agreement. It is a part of the Informia Learning Initiative. This is the Informia gathers all the secretariats of the different multilateral environmental agreements, and it is included also in the Observatory on Principle 10, which ECLAC services and which provides additional information where youth can find answers to their questions on environmental access rights. You will see the link to this course below in this slide, and the course is available in Spanish, in English, and in French. Let me show you or give you a brief snapshot of its content. It's an online course. It is self-guided, so therefore you can use on demand. It is free, and it provides a certificate if you complete the whole course and also pass a brief exam, a test. But to summarize, it explores the environmental dimension of the SDG 16. It also brings to the fore 3 multilateral environmental agreements, the Aarhus Convention, the PRTR, Pollutant Release and Transfer Register, and the Escazú Agreement, and it also relates all these 3 tools with the international framework. Here you will see the different modules, and it combines theory and practice, as well as videos, publications, and external links, which will also deepen your knowledge on all these areas. So if you allow me, I'll try to get you through the course to get you at least interested. If you go on the observatory's webpage, you will see here there's a link in the middle. If you click there, you will see here a link, acceder al curso, or in English, go to the course, and you log in, and you will see this homepage. So if I can take you to the Escazú Agreement module, which is the one that we are more close to for the purposes of the meeting that we are holding tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, you will see that this is quite interactive, that it is very user-friendly, and that it allows you to learn more, not only about the agreement, but also about how it relates to other areas of interest. So basically, I would like to invite you to take the course, to complete it, to get the certificate, and also to spread the word, because as the previous speaker said, the Escazú Agreement is about people. It's about building capacities, it's about partnering, it's about really enjoying or making a reality of these rights. And for this, we need to be trained, we need to build the capacities of others, so we are all on equal footing to enhance our environment. So I would leave it here, inviting you to enjoy and to take the course.
Muchas gracias, David. Creo que sí, será muy interesante.
Thank you, David. Truly, I believe it will be very interesting for everyone to take this course and to learn more about SDG 16 and the link that we have with the Escazú Agreement. So let's move on to the main part of this session. We will have a conversation where more people, more young people from the region will be able to participate. We'll have 3 segments. Each group will answer one question and will be led by one of our young champions for Escazú. So I'd like to offer the floor to Laura Serna from Colombia first, and she will be leading the first conversation, the first group. We have 10 minutes for each brief conversation. So Laura, go ahead. We will also have Alejandro Caballero from Mexico, Yvonne Rodriguez from El Salvador. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to everyone who is following us, and I hope you can hear clearly. I hope our guests are able to join us with their cameras so that we can begin with the questions of this first panel, which is of the utmost importance to begin the conversation we're having today. And what we would like to hear from you is specifically what motivates you? What motivates youth to become involved in the Escazú Agreement ratification? So we have with us Alejandro Caballero from Fridays for Future from Mexico and Yvonne Rodriguez, part of the Escazú Agreement team from El Salvador. Can you hear me? We can barely hear you. Alejandro? My camera is on. We can see you and we can somewhat hear you. This is a very complex question because what motivates us, or each person, each young person, we're different. We have different dreams, different aspirations, different interests. It's very difficult to generalize, but what basically motivates us, as was said before, is this climate crisis that we find ourselves in. And in the context of Latin America, the Escazú Agreement, from the onset of its implementation, we don't want it to be left in paper. We don't want it to just be another agreement. We have many goals and we want to achieve environmental justice. So we know that beginning with having access to information in a clear and simple manner, and also to be able to protect the environmental defenders is a very important part of it as well. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you, Yvonne. Go ahead. Well, following the line of what Alejandro was saying, I would add that we can see how in the last few years, all the agendas, environmental agendas have carried more weight, and it's not just something that's happening in the region. This has happened at a global scale, and we see that environmental issues are increasingly attractive and interesting for young people. And I would add that today we are feeling the effects of climate, um, this climate crisis, of the different natural disasters, of this imbalance of the ecosystem. All these effects can be felt directly and strongly, for example, in agriculture, in health, and in many other areas. We need to rethink this as young people. What are we doing? Where are we going? What future will we have if we can already feel the impact of this change? I believe that it's very important because before we didn't have these tools. Now we are able to work on environmental issues with this new perspective, this new paradigm, where in the past, people who spoke about the environment were deemed exaggerated or not speaking clearly, and maybe they were right. That's what we see now. Maybe those people who began talking about the environment in the 70s were right. So it makes sense. And speaking from El Salvador's experience, we can say that young men and women are waking up, and we see that this is something that doesn't only concern adults or government delegations for agreements or for international events. It affects us directly, and therefore we need to be involved. And to speak of the Escazú Agreement in El Salvador, it's been very interesting. Despite being a very dense topic, it's an international agreement and it's quite rigid in a way, or it may seem to be something that is only at a very high level, but we see that young people have been very active. The environmental organizations have joined the young people's activities in order to disseminate the Escazú Agreement message. And we are also in contact with territorial leaders and we who are fighting for the protection of their natural resources in their territories, and they're all young. So that shows you the interest of young people. Again, this is El Salvador, but I'm sure that this has been happening in all other countries in the region. This is of great motivation. Perhaps Escazú could be the opportunity to address all these challenges. And despite, well, it would seem that the environment is simply a fad, but it's not. I truly believe that we are moving towards a new era of action for the environment, for climate, and it is us young people who are going to be at the front of the battle. Uh, Thank you to Yvonne, and I would just like to add something, um, and this just popped up in my mind. It's something we live at a time where the world is seems small for us. I have friends that live in Argentina, who live in Chile, who live in many different parts of Latin America and the Caribbean. So it's it's important to seek these rights to access to justice, etc. in the region. It's important for everyone to have the tools, the necessary tools to defend their territory. I have friends in Chile who studied and promote agroecology. So we need to support each other, all these voices, and we need to have a foundation to achieve these rights to access, and so that all us young people in Latin America can move forward and find this socio-environmental justice. Thank you.
We are hearing you, Laura, to end with this segment. I would say that Laura has an issue with her connectivity. All right, very well. Thank you very much, Alejandro and Yvonne, for this perspective that you have shared in terms of your country as well as the activities carried out. You've opened up a very interesting perspective to be able to appreciate your feeling as young people. And now I will hand over to Sebastian from Chile, who is also one of our champions for Escazú, and who will be in this second segment together with Amelia Regin from Mexico and Ricardo Andrés Pineda from Honduras. Go ahead, Sebastian. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Greetings to all people here to talk about this very important agreement. As Olimpia was saying, in this segment, we've already heard of the motives that have led young people to support the Escazú Agreement. So now we would like to say, based on this motivation, what have been the main challenges you've had to face when promoting this treaty in your countries and the population in general to getting your countries to be part of this very important agreement? So to talk about this, we have two great speakers, Amelia Arreguin Prao, a recognized activist and feminist, a member of the Ecomagsei Querétaro group, and also Ricardo Andrés Pineda from Sustenta Honduras. But Amelia, could you begin, please? Yes, thank you very much, Sebastian. First things I could share regarding these challenges that the youth in Mexico have encountered. First, specifically the network of youth here in Mexico, items that we have identified jointly. First, be clear that in Mexico, when the agreement was opened up to signing and the ratification, we were going through presidential elections. So Escazú really was not something of top of the mind for people, because the priority in 2018, early 2019, was the presidential election. And so the public agenda was focusing on that, the media as well. And then in early 2019, no, she corrects herself, early 2020, the pandemic was on top of us. So, but well, the environmental issue has come up, and within the environmental issues, human rights. So these have been the challenges for people to hear about Escazú in general. The other thing is that among environmental activists, there was not that much knowledge of the agreement as such, but neither regarding access rights. Principle 10 of the Rio Declaration. But this has not always been the case. But the information available on climate change has focused on other aspects, not that one. The other thing is in Mexico, not only this lack of interest or lack of knowledge, but also in certain areas there have been direct attacks against environmentalists. The federal government has even told defenders of the environment and organizations that defend these people who in turn defend the environment, and there has been a lot of harassment and attacks against these people. And not just verbal harassment, but within the conflict of conflicts, this has happened. And often this is coming from the state. So the points that we would highlight are highlighting the issue, that it's important to the citizens, and an environmental context in general coming from the federal government. It's not everyone, but the Secretary for Foreign Affairs and within this federal administration has been quite open to the agreement and all processes put forward by youth. So that is what I would like to share for the time being. Thank you. Well, undoubtedly, it has been very difficult, especially during elections, and now even more, putting this up in the public agenda. I think that one of the major difficulties that we as youth have had in terms of furthering the Escazú Agreement has been that. Well, in Honduras, Ricardo, how has it been there? Have you had difficulties, or are things different there? Well, thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Amelia, and everyone attending this meeting. I would like to focus on two things. First of all, as Amelia well said, the issue of knowledge about the Escazú Agreement. The truth is that we've not been able to position it well within Honduras. People, when they hear of the Escazú Agreement, they do not associate so quickly as when you say the Paris Agreement or something like that, or other international mechanisms that we have been able to position. And so what we need is to strengthen our capacity within the country, but also we would like to ask other countries to help us as bring it to the media, the Escazú Agreement, maybe in Mexico or Chile, via campaigns over Twitter and other media. They have been able to raise the profile of the topic, but in Honduras we've not been able to do this, and we do think that a good mechanism for doing this is through the support of so many people from Chile, Mexico, all countries in Latin America that could help us to raise our voices, which is so important in a country such as Honduras that was recognized 2 years back as the most dangerous country if you're going to defend the environment. And also, I think that we should improve our line of discourse. We need to address the Escazú Agreement as an agreement for young people and for the intergenerational rights that we are defending. There are so many players that could be benefited by this. Even the government itself, by being more transparent and in various ways, could also benefit from the Escazú Agreement. However, I believe that it must be we, the young people that lead these topics, that we should take up the baton and support each other through our networks, national as well as regional, in order to position an agreement that is essential for our future. Thank you. Well, thank you both for your answers and sharing your experience in relation to this agreement. And so now, Ricardo, you have given me the way to pass on to the next question. How could youth work for Escazú in a regional way? Thank you. Well, are you done, Sebastian? We will move on to the next group. Yes, we have finished. Yes, very well. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Amelia, and thank you, Ricardo. So now we will hand over to the next team. Will be led by Rosario Garavito from Millennials Movement. And the participants are colleagues from the Caribbean, and so we're very pleased to hear you. Go ahead, Rosario. Thank you very much, Olimpia. Hello, my name is Rosario Garavito from the Millennials Movement, an organization that has been involved in the process to defend or rather to achieve the ratification of the Escazú Agreement in different countries. And now I will moving on to English in order to ask these questions to our guests today, that they're with us from the Caribbean. We remind people that are using the live broadcast, there is a simultaneous interpretation, so people can follow us. You can hear it in your language over the streaming.
Right, Raheem Smith from Grenada, and Genesis Whitlock from Antigua. With both of them, I invite you to open your microphones and also your cameras so we can start this segment of the discussion. And the question would be, how could youth work for Escazú in a regional way? How we as a young generation, we can advocate, we can take the work on ground in order to advocate for the Escazú Agreement in the regional way. So I don't know if we have either Raheem or Genesis to start this segment.
Hello, I can speak for myself. My name is Genesis. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Genesis, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Genesis Whitlock. I'm 17 years old. I'm a community organizer from Antigua in the Caribbean. So I believe that in order for youth to be involved, we must be empowered to tell our stories. And we can do this when education is made accessible, not just online, but in our classrooms. And so I can speak from my experience from organizing for equitable education access, not for wealthy kids in the Caribbean or kids in the Caribbean who have information made accessible, but especially for those who are the most marginalized, and those would be Caribbean students in low-income and rural areas. And so I think that we should be able to ensure that our curriculum reflects sustainable development, and that information that is reflective of what the possibility of our future is. It empowers students to be able to reimagine what the system can be. So education is the main tool to empower and advocate to ensure that we are a part of the decision-making process. I also believe that youth across the Caribbean should be able to form partnerships. And so I've been able to form partnerships with different primary and secondary schools across across Antigua, but I'd really like to be able to form partnerships with students from the Caribbean and also students from Latin America. I think that not only will we be able to form partnerships, I think that being able to tell our stories, and after being told our stories, we have spaces to utilize the education that we then have access to, so that we need opportunities to be able to have a platform like this to tell our stories and to speak up about how the climate crisis impacts young people in particular in the Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Genesis, for this great input. I actually take partnerships and also storytelling about how we can start working on advocacy for environmental affairs, and now specifically for the Escazú Agreement. Raheem, are you on the call? I would like to also hear, how do you think the youth work can take place at the regional level in order to promote the Escazú Agreement?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you see me?
Not yet. There is the video option is on the bottom of the now we can hear you. Welcome, Raheem. Very nice to see you today. Wow, amazing. I love your smile. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raheem Smith. I am a youth climate activist and environmentalist living here in the small island development state of Grenada. I've been in climate activism for the last 5 years. In response to the question, how can youth work for the Escazú in a regional way? Now, once the Escazú Agreement is implemented, it will be a force to be reckoned with and help all of us, the youth, to continue to support and work on environmental activism and goals to meet the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Youth participation in the agreement is very important, and youth in itself will be able to drive the implementation of the agreement. And this through one regional capacity building. Now, the agreement seeks to promote environmental justice and access to information, participation, youth engagement in promotion, and throughout the so youth engagement in Latin America and Caribbean will help to bring awareness to populations, especially to those environmental activists, those who are intimidated, by the governments to not basically fight for the environment, right? The second thing is basically participate in key stakeholder processes. Once the agreement is implemented, it's important that the government include youth in regional decision-making processes and on the implementation of the agreement and in the way moving forward and beyond, holding different chapters accountable. They have for social justice and obligation. Another thing which I think is important in terms of how youth can look for the Escazú in a regional way is collaborating with regional organizations. So in the Caribbean, there are blocks such as CARICOM and the OECS. So youth basically working with these regional organizations in terms of promoting the improvements in our region will basically help to strengthen the Escazú in Latin America and the Caribbean. And the last thing I think is the creation of a formal engagement mechanism to the Escazú Agreement would be important so that youth in Latin America and Caribbean can formally communicate with the Escazú secretaries in ECLAC and basically communicate information in the different Caribbean countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rahim, for your great inputs. And it's very important what you mentioned. It's not just about youth engagement, that is the engagement on youth that is informed, that have participated on capacity building processes, that are working together between platforms. You mentioned the CARICOM in the Caribbean region, a great platform for youths to engage and to keep promoting different agendas, but also the importance to engage youths on the mechanisms that follow and promote the Escazú Agreement or follow up the process with the Escazú Agreement and with the support of ECLAC. Definitely these points are valuable for this third segment. I really, really appreciate the participation of Rahim and Genesis on this last segment for this dialogue. And I invite you all to keep engaging and definitely the youths to engage on the regional mechanism for the following up, for the follow-up process of the Escazú Agreement. You can find it on the ECLAC website. It's in English and Spanish, and you just need to sign up to start getting the newsletters regarding what is the process and how the process is advancing and different opportunities to engage on this public regional mechanism for the Escazú Agreement. With that, I would really like to thank you all for this opportunity and thank you very much. Olimpia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rosario. Thank you, Rahim. Thank you, Genesis. Gracias por su participación y cerramos.
Thank you for your participation. We will close this segment with a few words from Laura Serna, who will make a few conclusions on these 2 or 3 sessions. Can you hear me now? Yes. Well, I believe there's many conclusions we can draw from these panels, but I'd like to stress a few points, a few notes on what they mentioned. First of all is the role of social media and the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the other social media that have allowed disseminating what the Escazú Agreement is about. We need to continue empowering them so that more people will know the agreement and also help position it in the country's agendas in the region in general as well. It's very important, and this has been done very well by youth and by the different organizations in our countries. The Escazú Agreement and in general environmental aspect issues in the region in Latin America and the Caribbean must be treated. And with the pandemic, we have seen some effects that existed, but with the pandemic have been made much more evident. And it's something that we need to look at. We need to develop a better society with better standards, and we shouldn't see the environment or humans as enemies, but we should jointly cooperate to maintain that equity that we feel we should have. And the next important point is empowerment and access to information. It's important that as youth and organizations that we promote the access to information so that it will reach many more people. And finally, the importance of strengthening the platforms that we have scenarios of movements that have gone around the world and have generated change. The interpreters apologize, but the sound is being cut off. Unfortunately, there is no sound. We've lost Laura. No, we can't hear her. Okay, so let's wait to see if Lara can reconnect so she can finish her conclusions and her message. Is she back? Can you hear me now? Yes, we can. Laura, could you turn off your camera and continue with audio alone in order to maintain the connection? Can you hear me? Yes. So just to conclude, I was saying that it's important that we continue to make these efforts, and we still have many challenges ahead of us, but the work done by the panelists and by everyone involved is very positive, and these are the spaces that we need to continue to promote. Thank you very much. Perfect. Thank you, Laura. Well, it's been very interesting to hear our youth live, but Latin America and the Caribbean is a huge region. We have 33 countries, so we have tried to bring more young people from all the other countries together, and our friends from Natural Resources from Peru have prepared a message with young people from around the region. Latinoamérica y el Caribe tiene excelentes recursos naturales y biodiversidad. But our environment is at risk, and for this, the Escazú Agreement was born, a pioneer tool that seeks to protect the environment and human rights. It aims to guarantee our access to participation in environmental justice. All countries have mechanisms that allow making these rights effective, and it is the only one in the world that addresses the protection of those who defend the environment. And we are committed to the Escazú Agreement because it allows for a sustainable development of the environment, and we hope that they will be respected. It will guarantee the right to access to information, which is essential to the possibilities of any sort of threat to public health. It's also about the state of the environment and projects that might affect it. Thus, we prevent conflicts, guarantee equal conditions, and there's a fight against the corruption that affects our region.
Decision making involving the environment. Nuestra generación no quiere más impunidad.
Our generation doesn't want impunity anymore. We want to have this defense of environmental defenders. It also promotes mechanisms for reparation. This agreement produces access to justice, guaranteeing technical assistance, especially for vulnerable populations like indigenous peoples with a gender focus. It also requires the use of interpretation in the official languages in all judicial processes. Well, environmental defenders should not be penalized for the work they carry out. They must be able to work safely and not die for it. That is why the Escazú Agreement talks about human rights.
That they act without threats, restrictions, and insecurity. Similarly, it guarantees that attacks, threats, or intimidation against them for exercising their rights will be investigated and punished,
making sure our environmental defenders are not criminalized and protected from any kind of attack and threat.
To protect our environment and those defending it, we need more countries to say yes.
Estamos en la puerta de entrada del Acuerdo de Escazú.
This is the point of entry of the Escazú Agreement. We need more countries to say yes to environmental protection, yes to a healthy environment, yes to environmental justice.
Be vigilant so that this agreement does not remain on paper and we have the sustainable development that we deserve.
Unfair human rights and the protection of our environment. That is why I support the Escazú Agreement. Let's do this together.
The youth of Latin America and the Caribbean are united in the defense of our environment and the people who protect it. That's why we want Escazú now.
Gracias a nuestras colegas de Derecho.
Thank you to our colleagues from Derecho Ambiente y Recursos Naturales from Peru for the video and for allowing us to hear more youth from the region. If we could continue to pass the mic on to other people in Mexico and Ecuador, Central America, Peru, Bolivia, there's so many messages that we would hear. We are coming to the end of our event. It's been very enlightening and motivating, and I at least am very excited to see the enthusiasm with which everyone has joined. And of course, what is young? Where does the United Nations mark youth? And it's important for all those of us who continue to work and know we have a lot of experience, but we have those who are setting an example from a very early age. So to close this event, we have the participation of Francisco Vera, a very young man from Colombia who has sent a message by video, but we have the opportunity to have him live. So we will offer him the floor so that he can introduce himself, and then we will project a message. You have the floor, Francisco.
Right, I hope you can hear me. Thank you very much, Olimpia, for the possibility to be here, and special greetings to all young people, girls and boys who are accompanying us here at this meeting, which is it's a matter of great pride for all Latin America engaged in not only environmental but also social issues. My name is Francisco, as Olimpia has said, Francisco Tanares. I'm a climate activist and a defender of life in Colombia. I'm 11 years old, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all entities who are with us here and for creating these spaces for youth and children. I believe that the ratification of the Escazú Agreement should not only be a commitment and an agreement for the environment to protect life and not be afraid of defending life, the environment, in one of the most diverse continents on Earth. And also, it is a commitment in line with the environment, the life, the ecosystem, animals. For example, today in my life, so many areas and people criticize the Escazú Agreement because they say that in access to information, environmental justice, and everything should be part of our jurisdiction. And yes, it is true, it is part of the jurisdiction, but there are no guarantees for this information, for the access to justice and participation actually are a reality at grassroots level. And so that is why the Escazú Agreement is so important. And so I believe it is important. Escazú today is a commitment to life and the environment. Thank you. Thank you, Francisco. Would you like to see your video now, please? Hello, everyone. My name is Francisco Javier Guerra. I'm an environmental activist. I live in Colombia. And I speak to all girls, boys, and adolescents who are watching us and say, get involved in the process. Escazú now. You must urge your governments to ratify this government. All governments that have not ratified yet, they may ratify. In Latin America and the Caribbean, you must ask them and get them to ratify. Please, for your love for life, for our future and also our present, for access to justice, environmental justice, and also guarantees for participation, citizen information and participation at community level, for the space that should be opened up to us young people. And so special greetings to everyone and see you soon. Tell me, when you start hearing Francisco, you all smiled. Tell me if you did not do that, because he is so full of joy, so full of enthusiasm, this tremendous commitment that we, or people who are maybe not so young, but that we too are concerned with caring for the environment. And we know that, same as Francisco, so many other girls and boys around the world also need us all to get involved responsibly to improve the environment. Francisco has left us with a very interesting message in terms of commitment. All entities, organizations, governments, enterprises, all spheres in life, we have a tremendous responsibility, yes, but also we see it with the optimism that he has. Yes, we are seeing this, we're going to do it, and we will achieve a lot. Thank you, Francisco. Thank you on behalf of all girls, boys, and youth in Latin America and the Caribbean. And now I will hand over to our colleague Andrea Sanhueza, who is the elected representative of the public for the Escazú Agreement, and she will be closing this event. Go ahead, Andrea. Thank you very much, Olimpia. I hope you can hear me and see me all right. Yes, go ahead. Yes, the truth is, it is thrilling. I too smiled as I heard Francisco, and I was also moved when I heard the songs and the discussion. All this effort that we started with the civil society in 2002, that is 18 years back, well, of course, you never really imagine how far the energy could go when just a few very different people met but with a common goal. We worked a lot to hold this event, and I would especially like to thank Elisordo from Idamos in Honduras, who helped me a lot to be able to contact different young people. And here Olimpia with the design and the work, Elia Torres from ECLAC, whom we worked hand in hand to achieve everything that we've done today. And David Zerilaut from UNICEF, and also the person who did the video. I contacted so many of you, and we've talked and organized many seminars, but I found this one so motivating, really stimulating, being able to talk to young people, new people to me, and this was great. So I would also Ricardo from Honduras. I spoke to him, and he was so thrilled that his song would be shared here. He was telling me of all the difficulties he faces in his country to make himself known as someone who's singing for climate change, while at the same time he needs to make a living. And so it was a very nice conversation. So thank you, Kandu, for that as well. And well, as you know, tomorrow the second meeting of the signatory countries will be beginning, and everyone who's going to be there, you of course can take part. There is a link that ECLAC will be sending to the same group, and we also have an email that I will be sending you to receive your comments and proposals. But in any case, we will be able to transmit your messages as clear as possible. But well, they're not 2 full days, but there will always be moments when we can share your comments and proposals and so on. So, well, once again, thank you all very much. It's so great to feel that there are generations who are working for the same goal. I work with various topics, and this doesn't always happen, and it's not always with young people. So this is a matter of great joy. I thank the organizers, attenders, and I wish you a very nice evening. Thank you, Olimpia.
Me encargaron que por favor.
Yes, and the picture, been asked that everyone should turn on their cameras. Unfortunately, we cannot really hear Olimpia. She does have audio, but the volume is very, very low. I would dare say that what she's saying is that the Escazú Agreement is in your hands.
Por favor, prender sus cámaras if you.
Please turn on your cameras for a general picture.
Ok, faltan, yo les voy a decir cuándo.
I will tell you when. We're still short of some people to turn their cameras on. I think we're ready. We will take the picture. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Thank you. Someone has said, can we stop smiling?
Bueno, muchas gracias.
Well, thank you all very much. See you soon.
Gracias, hasta pronto. Hasta luego.
Gracias, bye.
Muchas
Chao.
gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Cuídense.
Buenas tardes.
Bye.
Chao,
Un gusto.
gracias.
Adiós, un gusto.
Bueno, gracias. Chao, chao.